Alright guys, it's Ryan from RJ Martindale, and in this video we'll talk about how we paid for the business acquisition, 2 new vans, and my personal van has come to the end of its lease. So yeah, it's a bit of a different one this week. I've not been out on the tools with the engineers, we've not been in the stock room, I've had my head mashed with solicitors and accountants because it just so happens that this last week alone I've got to pull up the funds for the new business acquisition, 2 new vans. My personal van has come to the end of its lease, so I need to decide what I'm doing there. And I thought it'd be good to break it down on the flip chart. I'd have loved to have known some of this information 3-4 years ago. Here are the 3 big costs. We've got the purchase of BHE services, which I can't go into detail exactly how much it is, but it's over £100,000, we're into 6 figures. We've got 2 brand new vans that are going on the road. They're to the value of £65,000. And we've got Ryan's van, that's come to the end of its lease, and they want off me £13,500. Now what do we do to break this down and to keep cash flow as tight as possible? First one, Ryan's van. So my van is the Ford Custom long wheelbase automatic crew cab. I got it about 3 years ago. The total cost of the van at that time, I think, was around £35,000 plus VAT. And they decided to lease the van. This is the first van I've leased. So what I needed to do was put a deposit down of £5,000 plus VAT. I then had 36 payments of £402 plus VAT. With, at the end of that term, which is this week, I owe a balloon payment of £13,175 plus VAT. Now again, RJ Martindale don't own this van. In effect, we're renting the van. It sits as an expense on your profit and loss report. So at the end of each month, they send an invoice in with the VAT amount and we claim that VAT back and we go again. Now, in most cases, at the end of the 3 or 4 years, however long the lease is, you would swap that van in and get another one. The problem is, there's none in the country, so they tell me. I can't get hold of one of these vans. The new vans are being produced. They're being manufactured at the minute, but they're not till September, October before I can get a long wheelbase crew cab that's automatic. And ideally, I need the crew cab for Freddie and Louie, my 3 and 5-year-old. So, in the meantime, we're in February now. As we've got February to September, I've got to bridge that gap. This is what I've decided to do. I'm going to convert this to a hire purchase. So I'm going to hire purchase this amount here. Now, I could just pay this off. And if I didn't have the other stuff going on, I would just pay it. But I've got loads of other expenses, so I want to squash this as much as possible. So what we're going to do is hire purchase this amount. We're going to buy the van. So this will move from an expense to an asset. RJ Martindale own that vehicle. How this works out is I've got 24 payments of £656. There's no VAT because the VAT element I'm going to put down as a deposit, which will be 2 or 3 grand. I'll put down and then I've got £656 per month to find. Now, the bit that's not exactly right with this is come September, I want to swap that van. I may want to keep it, but ideally I want to swap that van. So what I will need to do is come September, October, if I want to swap that van in, I'll need to pay an early termination of the finance, which might be £1,500 to a couple of grand. But I'm okay with that because the van's got a load of equity. It stands me at 13k, but I can still get 25,000 plus VAT for the van. So there'll be at least 10, probably 15 grand's worth of equity in this van. So that's what we've done. Instead of paying the 13k, we've squashed that to 656 a month, and ideally we'll get a new van September 24. Next. 2 new vans. These are not the vans if you've been watching the YouTube from a few a few YouTube videos ago. These are 2 fresh ones, and they're Ford Custom Trends, L1H1, short, low. Total cost, £65,000. Okay, I've needed to put the deposit down, which is £13,477. This is the VAT element plus 5%. This 5% can change, it's normally between 5 or 10. A lot of the times they're like 10%. Because we've had 2 vans recently, well, we've had a number of vans, they're happy with 5%. So 13,477 I've got to put down, but I can claim that back on my next tax return, VAT return. That leaves me with 48 payments of £1,188, no VAT. The lease, you claim the VAT back each month because we're renting the van. There's no VAT because I've claimed that in capital allowances up front here. This sits on your balance sheet as an asset. I then, at the end of the term, the 48 months, I have a balloon payment of £3,000 a van. I always work off £3,000. Again, you can raise that, I could send that to £7,000 and that would lower these figures. But I'm happy with £3,000 per van. So in effect, the 65k, I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay that down. I want to squash that as much as possible and make cash flow easy. We've dropped that to £1,188. I hope that makes sense. Quick one, if you've got any questions on what we're going through, put them in the comments and I'll answer them. And if you think I could be doing something better, let me know. I'm all ears. Last thing, we're at 900 subscribers. Help us get to 1,000. Next, and this is what you're probably curious about, the business acquisition. Okay, this is the other plumbing and heating company, BHE Services. If you've been watching our videos, you'll have an idea who they are. The total cost of this business is £100,000 plus. I know I keep mentioning it, I can't go into it exactly, but we're over 6 figures. And we don't want to pay this. And ideally, I don't want to use the bank. More interest charges, more expensive, uncertain, don't want to do it. How can we squash this as much as possible and make it manageable for us? So we have negotiations with the shareholders and we come to an arrangement of a deposit of £35,000 down. There's still a big chunk of money that we've got to find. And this is why I've got to squash all the other figures. So £35,000 down, and then I've got legal cost for my solicitor and their solicitor to work together to get this over the line. This comes to a cost of £4,800. Then I've got stamp duty. It's a commercial purchase, so you've got to pay 0.5% of the total value. And this isn't necessarily your purchase price. It's the value of the business, which can be quite a lot higher, which in this case, it is. It's going to be roughly between £1,000 and £3,000. And then this leaves me with a monthly payment of £5,000 per month. That's what we've got to find until this is paid off. So as you can see, that £5,000 a month is much more manageable than the big cost that we've got up here, and I'm not involving any banks. As you can see this week, I've been mentally preparing myself for this, but I didn't expect that all three would land at the same time. We've been operating BHE for the last 5 months. So we've got the 2 new vans, the lease coming to an end, and the purchase deposit of this business. The total figure, we're over £200,000 in this last week. But what we've done with this exercise is squash the figure to £6,844. Much more manageable. So as you can see, it's been a high pressure week, but this is just the start now. It's time to get stuck in. The 1st of March is our new tax year. I'm bringing both BHE and RJ Martindale in line, so we're ready to push on next year through 24 into 25. We've had Ben, our latest engineer, he started this week. We've thrown him in at the deep end and he's getting stuck in. And we've got 2 more members of the team starting the first week of March. We're bringing Louise over. She used to work for BHE Services. She's going to be working as an accounts assistant and helping push on in the office. And we've got Warren. Warren used to work for BHE Services as a supervisor and manager. When BHE lost a contract, the council contract a few years ago, he moved over to the competitor. A lot of the engineers and the supervisors got 2 paid over. He's done a couple of years and he's had enough. He's ended up seeing some of the YouTube videos that we're doing. He's bought into how we work and we've had a chat and he's starting with us the 1st of March with Louise. So I'm hoping he can bring a lot of knowledge and value to the team. We're going to do a hybrid role with Warren. Okay, so that's a mix of being on the tools and the office. So I'll let you know how we get on with that over the next few months. So yeah, it's all happening. And with this stuff, if you think we could be doing anything any better or more tax efficient, drop it in the comments. Any questions, I'll answer them as soon as I can. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.